Good morning everybody and Merry Christmas. So we're doing a little bit of stuff today. I'm going to take you on a tour of the property, show you some of the stuff that I tried to record a couple weeks ago and we lost the footage for. I did some recording of it again already. I know I said I was going to get it on last week's video, but it wound up being way too long, so we're just going to go ahead and save it for extra today. It is Christmas Day. I do hope everybody who celebrates Christmas is enjoying their holiday, and for everybody who celebrates something else, happy holiday to you as well. So I'm going to show you the property like I said, and we're going to do some work here. I got my workstation all set up, as you can see behind me. I will show you a few little clips of that, and I've got some herbs that I've been drying since summertime that we're going to go ahead and bottle up today and get them ready. I use them as they're drying too. I'll use them fresh and I'll use them as they're drying, but it gets to a point where you just need to take the bundle down and put it in a jar because it's too messy to grab a handful of dried leaves. So we're going to be doing that today as well. I like to put my medicinals into mason jars. It does several things. It allows me to see what's in there. I get them labeled. I have a chalkboard markers that writes on these lids really well and they wash off really well. I dry them. I will use some fresh as well, but I do dry a lot of my herbs so I can do a lot of this stuff in the winter time when I'm not occupied with gardening. So a lot of these will get put into tinctures and soaked into oil for making salves and lip balms and stuff like that. So I've got lemon balm and stevia. I've got my dill come in. I'm doing mint right now. I've got my sage that I still have to do. The basil's been done, so we're just basics right now. Most of my stuff's already done for the season, but I'll just walk you through and show you how I do a lot of that. Alright, so we've got our bundle of herbs that have been dried. I hang dry my herbs. They've been dried for about 2 months now, and this is mint. So what I'm doing is I'm just going to squeeze it and break off all the leaves into this little bin on my table. And it's pretty messy. It smells amazing though. I wish you could smell it. This is mint. I've done my dill. This is my lemon balm right here. And I did my stevia, which is ground up. I had 2 bundles about this size of the stevia. It's my first time growing it. So it's not a lot, but it's there. So we just break them all up like this. And then once they're all in here, I just kind of go through and I find the sticks, the twigs, and I pull them out and discard them. Alright, so now that I have all of my herbs in my jars, so this is the mint, this was the last of it. I cleaned out my bowl a little bit just to make a little less mess. And I don't have any vodka on me right now, so I'm not going to be actually pouring. Basically what you would do for a tincture is you would take this jar and you would pour an alcohol over it. It's got to be at least 70% alcohol. Most people use vodka because it's the cheapest, but you can also use white rum or white tequila as long as it's 70%. So you would fill that up to the rim and then you would let it sit different lengths of time depending on what you're doing. Mint, you only want it to sit for about an hour. Any longer and it's going to be bitter. So I have some that I've made previously. It's my mint extract, and this is the bulk jar here. And what I do, I pour it out, and I get these little bottles that have eyedroppers, and I have the green bottle for the mint. And then you just very, very carefully, if you can get a funnel, that'd be awesome, but these bottles, the lids don't, most funnels don't fit in the lid. But you just pour it in there, just up to the shoulder of the bottle. Otherwise it's going to spill over when you put your eyedropper in. And then you just put your eyedropper in, screw it on, and you're good to go. The nice thing about using these dark colored bottles is tinctures don't like being exposed to the light, so this is an extract or a tincture, And when you use these dark colored bottles like this, you don't have to worry about it sitting on a shelf. It doesn't have to be hidden away in the dark. I also have my mother's wort tincture that I made earlier in the spring. This is good for heart health and circulation. And I put that in these little brown bottles. Now, you can label everything, get different labels and stuff like that. Because these are just for home use right now, I don't really label them. I just color coordinate the bottles. So this is my workspace. I've got it all set up now. The planter shelf is where I keep my plants that can't be outside in the wintertime. And this is also where I'll start my seeds in a couple weeks from now. The middle shelf there has 2 lights that'll get hung up on it, so the seed starting will have 1, 2, and 3 shelves for seed starting. And this little rack here, which has my cognac and my tea on it, and then it's also got some of my products that are for sale and empty mason jars and other products that I need. I've got more tools down here that are not as pretty to look at, so they stay tucked away. My begonia over there, and then my little workbench right here. And I'm in the process of pulling my herbs, like I showed you before. Gigi's bed is down there. In the evening when she comes inside, it gets prime location right on top of the bench. But yeah, that's my little space, and I'm so excited to have it set and ready. Oh, I got my little rack for drying extra things up there. I've got lemongrass and garlic up there right now. I've got my poinsettias, and I've got a Christmas cactus and a little amaryllis that's starting to do its thing, and some cuttings from my begonia back there. Really cool spider plant, which is actually, where's she at? She's blooming, which is really neat. I've never seen a spider plant bloom before, but this one has done it twice now. So, and then tucked back in here, I've got an agave, an actual blue agave. I've got an aloe plant, and then there's some other variegated agaves back here. This pot is my turmeric. It's not, well, it's dead, but it's supposed to be. This will be harvested soon. And hiding back over there is my habanero pepper that I brought in. So something that people may not know is peppers in their natural habitat actually grow into trees or very large bushes. So the seasonal pepper that we grow here in the United States, where we have our colder winters, that's not the natural way of growing. So if you can get your pepper into a pot, bring it inside, trim it down a little bit or top it, you can actually keep your pepper inside all winter long. It may even fruit for you a little bit, and then put it back out in the summertime, and it just gets a healthier, happier plant. And I got a little workbench here that I can show my garden stuff like seed starting and tincture making, and today it's going to be preserving herbs that have been dried. Yay! Like I said, I have to change my lighting, so let me know what you think. One of the neat things about my garden, or at least the small garden that we use for our own personal food, is its location. So this here is the garden. This is where the new beds are going to be, but it's going to be our show garden as we progress forward into the farming market, and we're going to have a little stall right here that people can purchase our produce and other homemade goods from, and they'll be able to see this garden, and it'll have everything that we grow in it, but it won't be what they're buying from. This will be our own personal use garden. It's just a smaller space that I can make look pretty and show off all the things that I grow. But the neat thing is it's roadside access with stairs that are existing from the old school property. So people can park right up and access it without having to traipse across our land, which I think is pretty cool. Just had to show the bunnies. Everybody's doing good. A lot of people ask me about winter for the rabbits and if I do anything for them. We live in central Missouri, which it does get a little bit of cold. We're not super bad. We get, you know, average, we can get below 0 Fahrenheit, but it doesn't happen very often. As you can tell, it is December 20th right now, and it is about 50 degrees out here, so it's not super bad. But also, the rabbits that I have, they are, they're thicker furred rabbits, and they do better in the winter than they do in the summer. The harder thing is keeping them cold in the summertime. They can get heat stroke really easily. In the winter, they're perfectly fine. As you see, we do have this structure around them. This is an old tent frame, like for a carport tent. And if it gets really bad, if we get really nasty weather coming in, we have a big tarp that we throw over this just to keep them dry. But other than that, they stay pretty good. They have really nice thick fur, and they are very content and happy to stay just as they are, right? Yeah. Alright, so apologize for the wind sound. I'm trying my best to block it out with my hand. I'm going to take you on a little quick walk of our property. As you can see behind me, we've got a lot of stuff on the property. When we purchased this, it was an old school, and it was used for years before we were on it as a junkyard. So the whole town would bring stuff up here and dump it. We found cars. We found a lot of stuff. One of the cooler aspects of this property is when the original building got torn down. They tore it down for the bricks to use for building my husband's grandparents' house. These are the leftover bricks, so we will always have an abundance of bricks. So as you come back down this way, this is a little path that we cleared. There's an old bus barn that was back there in the trees. I'll show it to you from a different angle. The building itself has fallen down, and that's another thing that we're going to have to clean out of here. Some of these trees are going to have to come down so that we can access the metal and stuff. There's a lot of old tin in there, which is going to be useful. There's a amazingly large concrete slab that is actually in good condition that we will still get to use. Concrete slab, like I said, is in still really good condition. The goal for that is we're going to clean it up and clear it off, and we're going to use that probably. We might put a bigger house on it. Might put a shop on it. We haven't really decided. I'm going to flip you around here in a second and show you the spot that we're going to use as our future orchard. As you come out of the trees, we have this nice, perfectly flat, cleared spot of land that, as you can tell, gets wonderful sun. It's actually pretty good soil. It's a little compacted, so we may have to break it up a bit, but this, I think, is where we're going to wind up doing our orchard. Maybe a blackberry field. Perennials, long-term fruits, stuff like that. I'll take you around this way. You can see behind me here some of the old barn still standing. We may be able to fix that. We haven't been able to get into it to really see it. But I'm going to take you around here. There's an old pond back here. We're pretty sure it was the septic at one point for the bus barn. But the school's been closed long enough that it's not really an issue. We're probably going to dig it out, see if we can do something with it. This is the pond. We've dug a little bit of it here. We've got it a little deeper here. The whole thing is no more than about 3 feet deep. It's built up with a lot of sediment. Like I said, I think it's the old septic pond, but we're not sure. It could have just been an overflow of something. It's definitely man-made. It's been dug here, so it's got a beautiful oak tree, really pretty cedar over there. There is life in this pond. There's a couple little perch in here. We get huge snapping turtles down in here, lots of frogs and other turtles, and we actually had a muskrat this year that had built a little den back in there. So this is another project. Like I said, it'd be really nice to have a pond that we can stock or something like that. So back here is where we've really been working on this side of the property. We've come through, we didn't clear, but we did trim up the trees. We eventually want to run the pigs back here. So they'll have about an acre maybe 2, I think it's actually closer to 2 acres of property that they can forage through. We are going to run, the fence needs to be beefed up a bit still, and going to have a hot wire that runs it, of course. We're going to do hog panels on this open field side. The rest of the fence is crisscross barbed wire. So the holes in the fence are not even big enough for me to crawl through. But like I said, teach the pigs to respect the fence and you don't have to worry about it later. This here is right across from the old barn, which we're hoping is going to be savable. Eventually we may have a cow, like every once in a while, that we can keep in here, raise up for butchering, and that'll be in there as well. From there we come back around this way. This is another little path that we keep cleared for bringing vehicles in and out. As you can see, this is what most of this property looks like. It's been let go pretty bad, but we clear it down, getting all these little sections brush hogged out and cleaned up. But we're this way here, we're coming up around to where the market garden is. And we did this last week. I did record it all, but it was some of the footage that got lost. So I'm going to show you really quickly. This is our market garden. Well, compost pile. So what we've done, all these black flat fabrics here, these are our potato beds. We've gone ahead and just piled them up with old straw and then put the tarp over it to let them break down through the winter. The sun on days like this will heat it up and cook it under there. And then over here, this is going to be the actual market garden. Each of those posts is our corner point right now. We're going to run fencing around it just to keep the critters out. So one of the biggest issues that we ran into with being on this property was the ground itself. This is an old school, like I've said many times. So most of the field was built up with fill. The open area of field was a baseball diamond, so a lot of sand and silt was brought in. So it's not really optimal for growing. On top of that, we are in the foothills of the Ozarks. So lots of clay, lots of rock, not a lot of topsoil. So one of the things that we had to overcome for the market garden was soil. Now, what I'm sitting in right now is going to be the big market bed. We are going to do row style. The whole thing is going to get covered with fabric cloth just because Missouri weeds are crazy and you cannot keep them out. So what we did last year, I'm going to flip you around here in just a second and show you. Last year we came through and we had a friend of ours who has a horse barn, and he donated us 3 trailer loads of horse manure, and we had wood chips that we had collected from chip drop that had been piled up and breaking down on the property for about 4 years. So we mixed the wood chips that were broken down and the horse manure 50-50, and we came down and we covered this plot probably about 4 inches deep, and that's this soil that you see here now. That was last year. We did that last February and we let it sit all summer long, and this is what we've got. And as you can see, this is beautiful soil. It is ready to be planted in, ready to take on any kind of vegetable. What we've done now is we took this old straw and we've covered the entire thing with. So the reason we did the straw on the bed is to help amend the rest of the soil the rest of the way. So through winter, we're going to cover this with a huge, big, heavy tarp and let this finish breaking down. The straw is going to add some much needed nitrogen to the soil. I'm probably still going to have to add some gardener's lime to it just to help amend it the rest of the way. You want to start off as best as you can on your soil. Get it as much nutrients as you can. There are a lot of things that you can add to the soil organically. You do not have to buy chemical fertilizers and stuff like that if you don't want to. Cow manure, horse manure, rabbit manure, alpaca manure if you can get it, straw, leaves, anything that comes from nature can go on your garden. The bigger it is, the longer it's going to take to break down. So get started on your compost. You know, even if you don't have a garden yet, get started on your compost pile. Just toss your scraps somewhere, throw a cloth over them, throw a tarp over them if you need to, and you'll have some amazing topsoil to add to your garden every year. This will get broken down and we'll till it in just a little bit this first year before we lay down the fabric cloth for planting in. After that, there'll be no more tilling on this. We'll just add amendment to it every year. But yeah, that's basically the majority of our property. There's a little bit more things that you can't see yet, things that are surprises. The area where the ducks and the rabbits are on the other side of the gymnasium building that I showed you earlier. It actually goes fairly far back into those woods and fairly far back into the woods where the pigs are. So we've got a pretty good space to work with. And I'm excited to do it little bits at a time. And I hope that you guys are too. Well, that's it for you, folks. I hope you enjoyed following along with me and getting to see the wilder side of our property and seeing the market garden when we're going to get started. I'm excited to have you guys come along with us as we get that started this season. We're going to be planting out a lot of new things. It is Christmas Day, so we are only a few weeks away from the start of seeding season. I'm glad I got to show you my new workstation. Leave a comment down below and tell me what you think about it. You got to watch me and how I process for my tinctures, and I will be trying to do some videos going into a little bit more detail about each of those individually to teach you about the properties for each plant, not just how to make the tinctures themselves, but what the plants do, how you grow them, how you harvest them, and all that stuff. We've got that in the works for you, so make sure to hit the subscribe and the bell to get notified so you can follow along on that journey with us. I'm so glad that you're here. I hope everybody had a Merry Christmas and a Happy Holiday no matter what you celebrate. And I look forward to seeing you guys the next time. Have a wonderful day.